All right, so this is step by step how to become a millionaire the boring way. I'm going to give the exact breakdown. This is how I built a very fair majority of my wealth, how I would continue to. I'm going to do more videos on this channel in a more advanced setting, more about business, more about businesses to start, just different ways of making money. But this is the first video for a reason, because it's what resonated with me when I started investing as a kid. So, starting off, again, it's going to be boring, but just bear with me. This guy is the reason for everything that I know, I would say, on a baseline of investing. So he is not only the founder of Vanguard, but he quite literally created index funds. Index funds, I'm actually going to go through it. So all these tabs, don't get overwhelmed. I'm going to go through them one by one in order. It's more or less just a batch of indexes or a batch of stocks that track whatever the fund manager decides. So that could be the S&P, which is what I'm going to be recommending here. That could be different tech stocks. It could be energy stocks. It could be whatever it is, right? It's more or less a batch. If I could, simplify it down to anything. There's definitions all over the place. It's more or less just different funds created by, a group of people to match a certain set of stocks. So that's exactly what this is, the S&P 500. And I want to talk about what the actual S&P 500 is. So obviously, guys, for those listening, this is obviously more tailored towards beginners, but I still think it's super interesting. I've done a full deep dive on Bogle these last couple of weeks, and he's just so interesting to talk about and listen to. So I'd highly recommend going checking out his stuff. All the S&P 500 is a batch of that's why they call it the top 500, is because it's the top largest 500 companies in the USA, in the United States of America. So this is why I'm extremely interested in it, is because it's boring. It's, very simple. The average returns of this damn thing since 1957 is 10.13, obviously adjusted for inflation and, some other, points is less, obviously 6.3%. But these last couple of years, if you've got even a lick of what's going on with the market, you're going to know it's crazy. My estimations are nowhere near that, crazy. I'm going to actually keep it very conservative. So, point is, the S&P is a good standing investment. Is it, do past results equal future performance? No. So take that with a grain of salt. Take that with what you will. I still think that we're going to be trending in the right direction, especially with AI developments, with, just tech companies in general, with different companies in general. I think we're, looking good going into the next, couple decades. But this is why it's so important to just get your money in the market. This is what Bogle talks about, is you want to get your money working for you as soon as humanly possible. Okay, that's the point I want to drive home in this video. It's boring, but if you do it properly, you can set yourself up for the rest of time. And this is where things get interesting. I want to talk about it right away. So don't let this overwhelm you. I'm gonna break it down step by step. This is just I like to call it compound interest calculator. You can call it an investment calculator, call it whatever you want. To me, it's a compound interest calculator. It shows you how much money your money is able to make over a certain set of period of time. Okay, so these are, obviously you can see some numbers here. This, I've already calculated it. This is assuming a $2,000 starting amount. Okay, so if you've got $2,000 in your bank account from a job, from side hustle, from birthdays, I don't know, whatever, this is what I'd recommend you do with it. Okay, and the sooner you start this, the better. So let's assume you're starting with $2,000. Let's assume a 10% return rate, which obviously is under the regular adjusted since 1957, but all these tech companies, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, these have all started around the 70s or 80s. So I should be probably going on the last 20 or 30 years, but I want to be extra conservative. That's the point of this video. So return rate 10%. We're going to compound annually. That means the money that this produces is going to continue to compound annually. Okay, and this is the timeline. So after 23 years, that's what this is. Okay, so you see the years here, that's 23 years. This is assuming you contribute $1,000 a month. All right, so I understand we're going to talk about different ways to make that. If that's out of your budget, or if that's not your wheelhouse, or if you're not able to contribute that, I understand. We're going to talk about that in a second. And that's kind of the whole point of this channel. But let's just assume you can. Okay, $1,000 a month. You could see it starts stupidly small. And this is what blew my mind. I understand it's kind of cliche now, is compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. Like, you've probably heard those quotes. I get it. I think it's cheesy too, a little bit. But at the same point, it's really damn interesting once you know what you're really getting into. So You can see on the left-hand side here, this is obviously the years, this is basic stuff, but your deposits, okay? So this is obviously $1,000 a month. You're starting with 2, that equals 14 for the year. Makes sense? Then after that, because you're doing $1,000 a month, $1,000 times 12 equals 12 grand. So these are your deposits. That's why this stays the exact same throughout the entire time. We're just going to keep it as that. Your interest, right? Your money, your $12,000 makes 2 grand in interest. That means your total balance, your total portfolio value is almost 29 grand. Awesome, right? This is why it's important to keep this in here. I have a running joke. It's like, I'd rather go homeless than disrupt compounding. Okay. I've got buddies, I've got friends, family members who are like, yeah, the S&P's done great. I've been in it for the last couple of years and I needed the money, so I took it out. I'm like, unless you needed the money to pay off like some serious debt or something, along those lines, please don't. Just don't take it out. Leave it as if you don't even have it. Leave it as if it's not even your money yet, right? You just want to never even look at it if you don't have to. But anyways, you could see here, your deposits stay the same, but your interest starts to slowly compound, right? And look at year 8, okay? Year 8, you only deposited 12 grand, but your interest comes out to almost 13 grand, 12,827 and some change, meaning your total portfolio value is 147 grand. But this is what blew my mind when I first saw this a couple of years ago, right? About 7 years ago. I was like, oh my God, this is really interesting. And then look at year 9, your deposits stay the exact same, but your money made 15 grand in interest. Your deposits stay the exact same, but your money made 18 grand in interest, so on and so forth. And look at what happens, right? By year 23 of just doing this, not increasing your deposits, keeping everything the same, letting your dividends, letting everything reinvest and compound on top of each other, you're sitting on $1 million portfolio in 23 years, right? Now, I understand, trust me, even watching a video, I watched a video from a guy called Woody's Gamer Tag way back in the day about this exact same topic. And even back then as a kid, because you're just thinking like, damn, that's like 7 times my lifetime. I was like 12 years old when I watched that. But 23 years and you have $1 million portfolio. Now, is this guaranteed? No. But again, what Bogle says is what is guaranteed is if you don't invest, you're never going to see anything. That's the guarantee. If you don't even take a stab at this, you're going to get nothing. If anything, your money's going to be chewed away by inflation and all the other bullshit bank fees that come with it and whatever, right? So this is why this is so interesting to me. And if you're coming to me and saying, well, I can only do $500 a month, but it's like, that's still fair enough, right? I started personally with 250, then I worked my way up to 500, and then I worked my way up to half my paycheck eventually. And now I'll get into a second of what my goal is. This will be a separate video on what my real plan is with investing to build to 8 figures, multi 8 figures, but we'll talk about that in a second. Even still, you're sitting on over $500,000, right? By just investing 6 grand a year. Now, obviously it takes longer, but look, by year 8, your deposits, your interest is making more than your deposits. And this is all liquid. This is the best part of this, right? So you have this principal amount just constantly building. You have the interest on top of it, and it just continues to ride on top of each other, right? So to those who are talking, maybe you're asking questions and asking themselves earlier when I talked about like $1,000 a month, I get it. And actually, really quickly, I want to talk about like if you can invest 2 grand a month, right? Look what happens. You're sitting on 2 million because the beautiful thing of this, every time I see this, it just makes me smile because the longer you can go, we're only counting 23 years, the time it takes to become a millionaire. But imagine when you're in your 50s or your 60s or your 70s. Now, I understand it's even hard for me to conceptualize that, but I could very easily see, I'm 26, so I could very easily see myself going into my 40s. It's like my 40s are only 14 years away? Like that's insane. I could really see that. 14 years for me has just in the blink of an eye gone past so quickly. So this is the beautiful thing right here. And if you don't have just $1,000 a month to spend, I get it, but you need to get your hands on $1 grand a month as soon as humanly possible. I'm a big proponent of online service-based businesses. We'll probably be making some other separate videos on that, but do whatever. I don't give a shit if you have to drive Uber or deliver stuff, just odd jobs with buddies or family members, selling your stuff. If you really have it's funny, people don't realize it, but when I moved recently and there was so much stuff that I could just offload. It makes you feel better physically because you're like, I'm getting rid of stuff that I don't even use, but it's like, holy crap, I sold this thing for $400. Holy shit, I sold this thing for $250. Whoa, I'm like trading this for, a couple $100. It's like this stuff stacks up, right? So just, you need to get your hands on it. Again, I'll drop a plug here, subscribe, because there will be videos on this, on how to, stack your cash. I personally believe the best investment you're ever going to make is yourself, but everything in excess, I think it's dumb to not invest in the S&P 500. I think you are insane if you don't take this seriously. I was an idiot for not starting a little bit sooner, but that's beside the point. Get started now. Okay. Now, this is my future plan. All right. So I'm sitting on a couple $100,000 in the market right now. A lot in cash, way too much in cash that I'm going to be slowly funneling in. But I have a couple $100 or a couple $100,000 portfolio right now. I have same principle. I'll just put 25 years to round up, same return, 10% a year, compound annually. And I'm trying to do 10 grand a month. My goal for this year is I've got a couple hobbies that are actually starting to pay for my personal expenses. So if I can get my personal expenses paid for, I own a service-based business that is spitting off a lot of cash, and I'm trying to funnel as much of that into the market as I possibly can, while still keeping some money within that corporation to run ads to employees, all that kind of stuff. But just in excess, I'm trying to do 10 grand a month. Okay, bear none. This is where things get really interesting. If you have a lot more money to play with, your time to see and match your deposits to your interest stays about the same. If you remember, it was about 8 years on the other time scale. So you'd be thinking, it's like, doesn't it take sooner? No. Time is your best friend when it comes to this thing. The difference, though, is the time that you're in the market, from $1,000 a month to 10 grand a month looks extremely different, as you can see here, right? So let's see. Let's try to match this up. So literally by year seven, in like a month or two, my deposits match my interest. And then what happens? My deposits stay the exact same, but I'm making 143. My deposits stay the exact same, but I'm making 170. And all the while, I'm building this portfolio, right? Do you see this? This is the beautiful thing. Again, this is sexy, but this is obviously what I'm chasing after. Is an 8-figure index portfolio. Very boring. I'm not against individual stocks, but I just think that it'd be stupid to not get in the S&P. You need to get your money working for you. And there's a certain point where your money is working harder than you ever will, and your deposits actually become irrelevant. Like, to a literal certain point, you could just stop and let the money continue riding in here that you have. You have $10 million working for you at year 23, right? And I'm going to try to beat this up. I know guys that invest 40 to 50 grand a month. I even saying that out loud is insane. I can't even conceptualize that, but I'm going to get to that point. I will, right? And you need to be thinking the same way. You need to just get started. Even if it's just a couple $100 a month, I don't care, right? Get it in the market. I promise you, don't try to time it. Just set it and forget it. Put it in there. And trust me, I love the auto invests. I love that. I do it now. But what I did in the beginning is I would physically, even when it was an option available on the phone, every morning I'd wake up when I was depositing half my check, and I would just manually see that money go out. And it was actually really interesting to see it go out and physically type on my phone, yep, half the paycheck, boom, send it off every Friday morning, every other Friday morning, right into the market. Like, it didn't even belong to me, right? And one day you're going to open, Bogle says this again, he's like, you're going to open the envelope 20, 30, 40 years later and just be like, and almost like drop just on your knees and be like, where did this money come from? You need to get your money working for you. I'm sorry if this sounded more like a ramble session, but I can't keep it contained. Like, put your money to work, let that ride passively in the background, take risks with online businesses and different, projects and whatnot. That's what I'm doing. Crypto, whatever the hell you want to do, go do it, but get your money working in the market. I wish I, put more in when I could have. Now I'm kind of making up for it. But anyways, not to ramble on, subscribe if you enjoyed. Please leave a comment below with what you're investing in or what you'd recommend to others, if anything. And I just want to hear your feedback, how you enjoyed this, and we'll roll from there. So thank you for watching. We'll see you soon.